Inflation soaring to as much as 440%, it's been reported. So obviously one of the issues that's going to be dealt with very closely in here is how to recover the economy of Zimbabwe.
So the president has said that the focus of this conference is to discuss how to reboot the economy. My challenge with that perspective is that it creates an assumption that the conference can deal with what Zanu-PF in its composition as government and as cabinet has failed to do. So then it raises expectation that the conference will come up with new resolutions that could suggestively be critical in rebooting the economy. I think from my analysis, it's a fallacy, because Zanu-PF, the party, if you look at its organogram, its key players are the same players who make key decisions on a day-to-day basis, whether it's within the cabinet, whether it's within the regular party Politburo meetings, which are regularly held, and they are chaired by the same functionaries which ran the Central Committee yesterday, which defines key policy issues. So I don't see anything new that can come from this conference. The same problems for the government and the same problems for Zanu-PF will be experienced next year unless there is a total change of attitude within the party itself, and probably steering the party towards focusing towards genuine issues that are affecting the country.
When we take a look at Zanu-PF itself, it's been reported that it's struggling to manage its own organization, with over 50% of its money coming from donors on the website as well as overseas banks. If that is the case, and Zanu-PF as an organization is struggling to run itself, how much hope then is there that that's going to translate into some of the things you've spoken about and into a Zimbabwe that's functioning correctly next year?
So I take it that you are raising a question about the internal funding of the party itself. Yes. What we can say is that Zanu-PF traditionally and historically drew much of its resources from the state, from government. So it's obvious that right now it's facing a crisis because the government is not performing. There is no money in government, and therefore there can't be money in Zanu-PF. Is it a problem of its internal management? Yes, it's a liberation party which has failed to transform itself into a competitive democratic institution. But it's also a party that depends so much on some shadowy organizational network which brings money into the party without proper governance systems. It's not accountable. It's extremely opaque. The key functionaries and players who fund Zanu-PF, you can never know them. But what we assume is that these are people who are interlinked into a national business in terms of investing money into the country, and part of it is diverted into the ruling party. The president, the current president, Emmerson Mnangagwa, he has been for a long time the chief administrator of the party, basically running its core businesses. It's the main businesses of the ruling party in Zimbabwe are failing just like any other business because the economic environment is basically disabling. So there isn't much profitable business transactions ongoing within the country.
So we have read reports that about 8 million people in Zimbabwe conservatively are facing food insecurity. And we also know that, we don't know the exact numbers, but the Zanu-PF Congress that's taking place costs allegedly millions of dollars to run. How important is optics in a situation like this, and reducing costs and trying to make sure that even though it may just be optics, there's a very pared down, smaller version of this conference?
So they are totally different, two different issues there. Let's separate the drought from Zanu-PF traditions. So this conference is a traditional rituals of the ritual of the ruling party. The issue of the economy and what it takes to have it does not matter to anybody, especially to the key functionaries within the Zanu-PF party. What is important is that it is held and the ritual is upheld in terms of Zanu-PF ethos and norms and values, and particularly post-Mugabe, because this is the first conference that President Mnangagwa officially running as the president and the secretary, the first secretary of Zanu-PF. On the issue of drought, so there are, to be fair, there are environmental geographic issues that are that underlie the causes of drought, perennial drought in Zimbabwe and much of Southern Africa. But the issue would be, how has this been over the years dealt with? So before 2000, and when Zimbabwe had its commercial farming up and running, a lot of commercial farmers were able to produce food, and to some extent small-scale farmers were able to produce a lot of food, which at least sustained food security. Under the circumstances, agriculture, domestic agriculture has totally collapsed. So the problem is, what is Zanu-PF demonstrating, holding its ritual under such very difficult realities? The other issue is, what are they going to do, and how are they going to do it in terms of making sure that they mitigate the challenges facing the Zimbabweans?
Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Gideon Chitanga joining me in studio there.